Okay. Now we just started. I mean, the interesting part about the story for me is that actually it was revealed to the larger public quite late. I mean, I think Abba gave interviews in Israel only in the late 80s or something. And I did a little research before doing the interview with you. And I found an article from the New York Times from 1946, where they reported about this bread poisoning against the ancient SS guards and ancient German war criminals. And they just mentioned a Polish DP displaced person being maybe responsible. So they didn't know much. So how did you hear for the first time from the story?
Right.
And at what point did you guys feel like making a movie out of it?
Yeah, so actually the story is quite interesting. Me and Yoav just sat down for a beer with a friend of ours. And, when you're growing up in Israel, you think you know all the Holocaust stories and there's we know everything. But this guy told us a very interesting story, a friend of ours, about his grandfather coming back after the war and caught the guy that snitched on, told the Nazis about his family, and that's why his family was murdered by the Nazis. And he survived the Holocaust after 4 or 5 years away, and he came back to his childhood home, and he just took a gun and shot the man who killed his family. So me and Yoav said, okay, wow, this is a great personal, small drama, revenge drama, a very nice angle to talk about the Holocaust, because nobody ever talked about, we never knew about stories about revenge. We can talk about it later, but there's a lot of stories about heroism and about the uprising, but not about revenge. And then we started researching and looking for more information about this angle on the Holocaust, about what happened in 45, 46 in revenge stories. And then we came up, just by Googling, with a real amazing story, which is, of course, Play. And this really blew our mind, because this wasn't a personal revenge, this was a national revenge. And we say, well, first of all, we were shocked that we didn't know about this story before. And we said, okay, this is a bingo, this is a story to tell.
Yeah, cool.
And like in the article you found, this is plan B. After plan A failed, some of the group went on with the revenge plan and went with the plan B. And we read a lot, and we heard stories from firsthand from the Avengers themselves. And they told us that from their perspective, the operation succeeded. And the American forces tried to hide it because they didn't want to raise panic in the camps. But some historians say that they failed and they only caused food poisoning. But for us, what was more appealing, the idea, the revenge, the idea that a group of Holocaust survivors, of partisans, of people who lost everything, tried to do something. They believed that history cannot just move on, that the world cannot just move on, and they just felt the urge to do something strong and something for the world to remember. And that's how Plan A came.
But now in your movie, we have two adversaries. We have the Haganah on the one hand, and then we have the Nakam on the other hand. And the Haganah sees a little bit the bigger picture and sees that maybe the state of Israel is in danger if this plan A would somehow succeed.
Right.
How historical is this adversary, and how much did you maybe dramatize it for filmic purposes?
It was very historical because the Abba Kovner, in the film we have a meeting, we have a scene where the two groups of Avengers meet, the Jewish Brigade and the Abba Kovner's group. And this meeting took place for real. Abba Kovner came to the Jewish Brigade, he was looking for them, he came for them and asked for their help for his revenge operation, but they didn't want any part of to take any part of it. They knew he's taking it too far. They knew that this kind of actions can jeopardize the idea of the state of Israel, and they were against it. And also, at the meantime, in Israel, Abba Ben Gurion, the first prime minister of Israel later on, and the leadership here, they heard rumors about their actions, and they were worried about it. And some historians say that it was Ben Gurion who snitched about Abba Kovner, and because of him he was arrested, and because of the Haganah. Some historians say he was arrested because of technical issues, that they found out that he was an illegal passenger on the boat. But anyway, the idea was there. The idea of these two separate ideas. One idea is revenge and not thinking about the future, only about the past. And there was, on the other hand, the Haganah, the Ben Gurion, the leadership in Israel that were thinking about the future, thinking about the next, what will be the next for the Jewish people, and they all their thoughts about concentrating on this, raising the state of Israel and not dealing with the past.
So when you tell such a story today, I guess you do want to more than just an historical film, right? So where do you maybe draw the interesting aspects for an audience today, or maybe even parallels with today's world? Where's the timeless appeal for you to make more than just an historical movie?
Right.
Yeah, so first of all, the subject, unfortunately, relevant these days too. You can reflect this revenge idea on any conflict zone in the world. You can. There's always this question: when is this vicious cycle will end? You can look at the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. You can look at any conflict. When is it going to end? Like, is this vicious cycle is not leading anywhere? So first of all, yeah, it's an up-to-date idea. That's what we liked about this story, because it's still relevant, unfortunately. The second idea, the second thing that appealed to us was this, revenge is a very primal and very emotional thing in cinema. It's one of the most passionate stories you can tell, and the primal stories you can tell. And me and Yoav weren't so interested in taking a stand. I think we do, but what more interested us is to dissect this process of revenge on the human side, because everyone can relate to this idea. Not everyone will take a gun and kill back the guy that killed his father, but everyone will think it in his mind and will think about it in his head thousands of times. And this is the main idea we're trying to throw to the audience. What will you do? What would you do? Will you revenge be something negative and destructive, or will it be something constructive, like building the state of Israel, raising kids, building a family? So this is it's a very cinematic question for us to deal with.
So how did the production come along? For example, how do you convince German funders, German TV stations to tell a story that for Germans is, of course, a little bit ambiguous, because you see also killing without doing the right form of justice of the Jewish brigade?
I think.
Right. Doron?
Yeah, I think as it was shocking for us to know about this story, I think it was shocking to Germans also. And unfortunately, we can't be there in the screening to see the German audience reactions, but everyone who read the script, or we just told Germans about this story while raising the money and on working on it, everyone was shocked about this story because nobody knew about it. And I think the interesting question is why nobody knew about this story in Israel mostly, because as I said before, almost all the Holocaust stories when you grow up in Israel, they tell you everything from a very early age, and you think you know everything. But there is a reason David Ben Gurion, the first prime minister, and the leadership in Israel, they decided not to. They did a great effort to conceal this story, because they say you can't establish a country and build a country on these values, these negative values. So I think there's a reason it wasn't told till today. And I think in the German perspective, I can only imagine, and I know from the reactions that we got, that every German man, every person who read the the script was shocked, and I think that's the power of this story.
But it was it was a process working with the German film funds and the German television. Of course, it's such a different story. So we had many long discussions, days of meetings with the drama team of the Bavaria BR television, and it was and sometimes it was very interesting for us to see how the story is received from the German perspective. We came from our own perspective. I think this dialogue made the script better, and the facts are all there. You know, it's we based the script on a book by Professor Dina Porat, the chief historian of Yad Vashem. So we had so many materials there. We just needed to dramatize it.
I saw in the credits that Nia Bergman was somehow involved as a script editor.
Right.
So what was his function here?
He
edited us while we were working on the script. He was the script editor, and he helped us a lot. He's a great guy. He's an amazing ideas, and we connected immediately, and we were lucky enough to have him. Yeah.
So if I understand well, your past as filmmakers is more into genre films. You also have done horror films, genre films. So what was the interest for you here to make kind of an historical film, kind of a political film with genre elements? You know, Michal Aloni with his hat, sometimes he looks like in a Western, for example. So, I mean, genre is not completely forgotten in your movie right now.
No, the thing is that we are very drawn to the dark side of humanity and the dark side of people, dark side of actions. This is why our two previous films were horror films. But in our eyes, by the way, they are not really horror, especially the Golem. It's more like it's a drama. It's about a couple. It's very surrounded by an atmosphere, a dark atmosphere. But we were really drawn to the dark side of people, of humanity. So this is why we were so attracted by this story, because it's about revenge. This is such a primal feeling, such a primal. Everyone has this feeling. You can be the most sophisticated man, but revenge is primal, and this is why we were fascinated, and also we kept in mind that this is not a documentary. It's a fictional film. It's based on true facts, on a true story, an amazing true story. But it was important for us to have also an entertaining film to draw the audience, and also to bring to this kind of complicated story a new audience that usually do not watch Holocaust films, for example. So this is why we added some genre elements to the film.
Talking about audiences, who has seen the film already? I found out that it had already been shown in Japan, for example.
Right.
You guys told me just before that Israeli audiences have seen it. Tell me a little bit more, who has seen it so far and what were the reactions?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually it started like I think a week and a half ago in Japan, in the screening in theaters. But in Israel, it's just 2 screenings for the Film Academy. It's not for the broad audience. So it's more like colleagues and friends. We're really, really curious. I think this is the German screening, you can say, is the second screening outside of Israel, which is amazing. It's one of the first audience experiencing revealing, watching the movie. And for us, it's a great experience to start seeing these reactions. I mean, you work in a movie so long, so many years, and we got the Israeli side, we got some reactions from the Japanese side. Now we were getting we're happy to get the responses for the German side, and this is very exciting for us.
Let's talk a little bit about the casting. On the one hand, you took somebody who's very famous, not just in Germany, but also internationally. Of course, also because he played in Quentin Tarantino's movie Glorious Bastards and in other international productions, which is, of course, August Diehl. So how did you approach him, and what was his reaction? Because as far as I know, he's pure German. He doesn't have Jewish background, as far as I know.
Right. No, it doesn't. And to tell you the truth, for us, it was a process, because we were looking for the right man, the right actor that can bring to this role, can carry out on his shoulder. It's such a complicated role, and it's that everything is about him. Everything is from Max's perspective. We knew that he needs to be perfect, someone who will hypnotize the audience. And it was a long process where we're looking for the right actor for the role. And then the German producer told us, you know, you wouldn't believe it, August Diehl read the script and he loved it, and he wants to be in it. And we loved him as an actor, of course, but he wasn't the first name coming to us, especially when he usually played a role of Nazis. So it was a process. And then, like, the German producer told us, please meet him, just meet him. And we had a meeting, and he was so he was electrifying with his energies. He knew so much about the subject. He read books about it. He knew more. After a while, he knew more about the subject more than us. He read everything. He saw everything. He was into the story so much, and we realized that he's the one that can do it. And also, you know, we were asking ourselves, what does it mean to cast a Jewish actor? Like, how does a Jewish person needs to look like? How does it needs to act? You know, we live in Israel. There are Jews from Ethiopia and Jews from Russia. We have all kinds and all colors of variations of Jews. So we told ourselves, okay, maybe it's not right to think about the stereotype of a Jewish actor. Maybe there's all kinds of variations of Jews. So we were lucky enough to have him. He did such an amazing role. He was into it from months before he started getting into the role, also on a strict diet and everything. And we are so happy that he was with us, and that we believe that it was the right choice for the part.
Cool. Maybe one word to the rest of the cast. I mean, I know some of the Israeli actors through very popular TV series. So what was your reason, for example, to cast Michal Aloni?
Michal Aloni, I think it was a very natural decision. Actually, I don't think even subconsciously the character's name is Michael, and I think me and Yoav had his face all along, all along the years.
That's true.
It took us a while to write this script. We're running with this script for quite a while, and all these years it was Michael. I mean, it was him, and it's not a coincidence. It's called Michael because it was him. For us, it was like the natural choice, and we're so happy he agreed to be in this movie, of course. And he's a good friend, and we did some TV shows with him, and we knew he's going to be a great Michael. Yeah, and also Anna, Sylvia Hoeks, that we were so lucky to have, because it's such a complicated character. By the way, the Anna character is inspired by Vitka Kovner's Abba Kovner's wife, Vitka Kovner's. Of course, inspired by, not the same character, but she was an amazing woman, and it was a very challenging part to have Anna, and we were lucky enough to have Sylvia, and we're really happy she joined our journey.
I have one last question for you. It's a question about the language. I mean, I saw the film now in its original version, which is all English. Was there ever a thought to maybe do it in German and in Hebrew or in Yiddish or in all kind of languages that were, of course, spoken after the war?
Right. Yeah, it's a very good question, because we had many discussions about it, and it's about cinema and where you're aiming for. Because in a way, let's talk about Abba Kovner character, okay? For example, he was a very unique man. He had a really way he spoke. He had this heavy accent. He had his hair. He was a real character. But we realized that we don't want to try to copy that, because you can never achieve the real thing. It will always be fake. And you can see it on historic films, sometimes where they try to copy real characters. It always, there's a feeling of fakeness around. So we decided that the idea is more important than to try to copy reality. You can never copy the actions and the real life and what happened there and the way the city really looked like and the apartment that they really stayed in. It can never be the same thing. We are talking, it's not a book, it's not a documentary, it's a feature film. And that's one thing. And the second thing is that this story is important. It's the time to tell this kind of story. It's a time to raise a discussion around this the subject of revenge, because like my brother said, it still goes on till today. It's still relevant today. We wanted this film to reach a large audience. We wanted this film to raise a debate. And the only way, unfortunately, maybe to achieve a large audience is to be English speaking, you know. And Schindler's List was in English, and people received it well, and so many other examples. So we knew that from a quite first stages that we want to reach a large audience, and for that we needed to be English speaking. So yeah, maybe it can be sometimes a bit weird for people at the beginning, but I think that maybe after a few minutes they forget the language issue and then they're deep into the story.
Thank you so much for joining us, and good luck with the movie.
Thank you.
And
thank you so much.
We'll try to let you know how the reactions were in Germany.
Yes, we're
So
very curious to see how the German audience will react to the film.
Okay, thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you
Bye-bye.
so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye-bye.